Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so excited to be part of Open Ed 2021 today, and to be part of the first group of presentations is really exciting. My name is Heather Maselli, and I'm a lecturer at Roger Williams University in Bristol, Rhode Island. First, I would like to acknowledge that I am a settler on the homelands of the Narragansett and the Pokanoket. And today I'm excited to talk to you about using open pedagogy as a tool to increase confidence and lower anxiety in science courses. Just to give you a little bit of context regarding the class that I use open pedagogy in, I teach our Core 101 scientific investigations course at Roger Williams University. We have 5 interdisciplinary core courses that all students must take as part of their general education credits. Core 101 it's labeled the first. It's not normally the first one that they take, but all students have to take these 5 courses. The exception to this rule is science majors. They don't have to take Core 101 science investigations. So my class is about 99% non-STEM majors. And for a lot of them, they're pretty hesitant to take the class. Some of them wait until their last semesters to take the course. Others sometimes take it to get it out of the way. But I do have a lot of students that are kind of wishy-washy about having to take a science course in college, especially because they're non-STEM majors. But for most of my students, Core 101 is the last formal science education my students will have. Just a little bit of information about general education science and science anxiety. Like I said, students in my class are non-STEM majors, so they come from a range of previous science experiences. I have students that took AP courses in high school and just are not interested in science as their career path, which is fine, but they absolutely loved their AP classes and just decided to not be a science major. I have some students that found science boring in high school, middle school, and just it never appealed to them, or they found that they weren't really good at it. I also have some students that have some pretty traumatic experiences in their previous science classes where teachers were not supportive or called them out on not being able to answer questions. So I have this range of experiences. So teaching this class is a challenge in and of itself, let alone taking into account that a lot of students have what we call science anxiety. And this is the fear of learning and understanding science. It's usually fueled by poor grades, bad experiences, and indifference. We usually see this play out in general education science classes in a mismatch of the textbook content and the student interest / level of learning. Textbooks are usually written by scientists about a particular topic. Sometimes intro texts are even too high a level for students to engage with the material well. And our general education science course is actually, there are no content objectives. So we get to teach whatever we want. So trying to find a textbook in that situation is already very difficult, let alone trying to find one that works for every student of all levels. And so science anxiety is something really important to kind of keep in mind when teaching general education science, because it usually results in low confidence among students in these general education courses. So my question has been, can open pedagogy be leveraged to increase confidence and decrease anxiety in our general education science courses? So I've been teaching general education science courses this is my 14th year. In almost every single one of those courses, I have always had projects where students get to choose a topic and spend the semester engaging with that topic, as you can see, lots of the topics are controversial. You can see there's pros and cons. They engage with the scientific literature. They engage with popular literature to learn more about this topic. And I have loved this project. We used to make these posters and they were wonderful, and we would have these wonderful poster sessions, and then they would literally throw them in the trash after the presentations. I would walk out and there would be a huge pile in the garbage outside of the classroom. And I was so distraught the first time I saw it, because I was like, all of that knowledge is just getting thrown away. But to be fair, they're college students. Usually it's the end of the semester. They don't want to be burdened with a poster that they've made as a group. So I can totally understand why they would end up in the trash, but it is still really disheartening as a teacher to see all this wonderful work literally thrown away, which of course led me to trying to figure out ways in which to make these assignments renewable so they weren't literally disposable. My inspiration came from a talk that was given to Roger Williams University by Rajiv Jhangiani. He came in and spoke about using open educational practices to the faculty on campus. And he spoke about this book. This is Environmental Science Bites. It's written by students in an environmental science class at the Ohio State University. And when he was talking about this student-generated textbook, I immediately thought, what would a textbook written by non-majors for non-majors look like? And in my case, it doesn't look like a textbook. It's a website. It's a series of websites. This is one of our websites. This is our space exploration website, where the students focused on, in this case, the colonization of Mars, and they research the pros and cons and the science of colonizing Mars and add it to this website. We have 11 websites. Some have been edited by upwards of 6 groups of students. Others 1 through 5, almost all of them are in various stages of development. You can see the variety of topics. These are all topics that we cover in our class. As you can see, it's kind of a wide swath, but I make sure that every single one of our topics is socially relevant to my students. These websites are used as the textbook. They are the first resource that is listed every week that we talk about our topics. So in the week on vaccines, the very first resource that students are led to engage with is the Core 101 vaccine website. And then there are additional readings and websites for them to explore as well, but this is the first one. And anecdotally, students have responded really well to using these websites because they knew they were written by previous students. So they know that they're written at a level that they understand. They know that they are, they know that the topics are relevant to them and relevant to their generation because the students themselves have chosen them. They also know that they're timely. These websites are updated every semester. So it's very easy for us to include information that's happening right now. For example, our climate change website was just edited in the spring of 2021. And I had a group of students who added information about the polar vortex and included the winter storm that hit Texas and caused a standstill in Texas. And we know that part of that is contributed by climate change. And so they were very interested in how much of it was climate change. And so they researched it. They added the section on how the polar vortex is being modified by climate change. And so this is we get to have these very timely additions to these websites, whereas obviously a traditional textbook can't quite accomplish that as quickly as we can. As you can see, there's a link to the websites. These are CCBY, NCSA. So we are happy to share and modify for you to modify these websites for your own use. Just to give you an idea of what the semester looks like when it comes to creating these websites, the students choose topics that they're interested in. I usually give them a Google form and they can choose 3 topics, and I try to give everybody either their first or second choice. Once they're assigned to groups, they complete a website review to assess the state of the website. So they go through, they look at the content that's in there, kind of assess what's missing, what they want to add, maybe what timely information has happened. For example, my space exploration group this year or this semester, they'll be adding some of the private space company achievements this summer between Virgin Galactic and Blue Origin. Those are the kinds of things that they can assess in this website review, along with like organization issues, because when you have 6 groups editing a website, sometimes things slip through the cracks. So I actually do have a couple of groups that are this semester dedicated to just smoothing out websites that have been edited quite a bit over the past few years. After that website review, they design a development plan. This is the basis of their assessment. This is what they want to add, edit, reorganize. This is the document we're going to go back to at the end of the semester to determine whether they were successful in completing their plan. We utilize Google Docs on our campus. We have a Google U University, so they write their rough drafts using Google Docs. Because of this, it makes it very easy to peer review the very first draft. So they read each other's work because they are the audience. It's not me. Fellow students are the audience. We also provide a copyright Creative Commons workshop to help them with intellectual property rights questions, to make sure our images are used properly and not violating copyright. And of course, I have to give a shout out to Lindsay Gum, who is our scholarly communications librarian, who is literally instrumental in making sure that these websites happen each semester, because without her, I don't do as well of a job explaining copyright and Creative Commons to my students. After they've reviewed the rough drafts and made their edits, we start to add content and media to the websites, which is the last few weeks of the semester. And the students present the websites to each other in a final poster session. Well, we haven't done it the past year because of COVID, but usually we gather in a space in the library. It's open to members of the community, and it's a great time for the students to see what their peers have been working on, and also to engage in conversations about their work. And this, to me, is the most authentic assessment, because they really get to narrow down, show me what they've learned, show others what they've learned. And my favorite part is eventually about halfway through these like poster sessions, is they realize that all of their projects are likely connected in some way. So when they're talking to another group, they're like, oh, I learned about this on my project. And someone inevitably goes, hey, all the projects are connected to one another. I'm like, yeah, that's because science is connected to one another. And I'm like, you won. So it's really great in that, to be in that space. So while the project has been amazing, I wanted to collect some data on whether or not the projects and other pedagogical decisions that I've made help to increase confidence or lower anxiety in my students. So I found a science self-efficacy scale by McBride et al. In 2019. It is designed for general education science students. It contains 10 questions on confidence in completing science activities, with 0 being no confidence and 10 being very confident. There's 2 science anxiety questions that use a 5-scale Likert, and there's 1 relationship to science question. Students were asked to look at an image and choose which best represents their relationship to science, and I'll show you that question in a few minutes. The post survey also had 2 open-ended questions. I'm only going to show results from 1 of them today. Unfortunately, I began collecting data during the semester that COVID hit. The first round of surveys in spring of 2020, you can see even my pre-survey while we were still on campus, the participation levels were very low because I gave it to them online rather than conducting it in class, and that is a lesson learned. For like the first section there of core spring 2020, 8 and 9, I can't even assure that those are unique students because there's 24 students in the class. So luckily in the fall of 2020, I did get some decent response rates from one of my sections. You can see that I got 20 in the pre-survey and 17 in the post-survey. I'm going to be showing some statistics. The statistics are unpaired, 1, because I did not get responses from everyone, but 2, because I did not include a way for students to identify who they were. So I couldn't match the data. These are some kind of minor mistakes that kind of mess everything up a little bit, but unpaired t-tests are usually more conservative. So if we see a significant result on an unpaired test, it's likely that if we paired up the data, it would also result in a significant result. So this data that I'm showing you is just from 1 section in fall of 2020, with 83% responding to the pre-survey and 71% submitting the post-survey. So the first 2 questions, confidence in finding reliable information, confidence in reading, understanding, and critically evaluating media coverage of scientific issues. You can see that pre was around 5.8 in both of these cases, and you can see the post is significantly higher. The students get they get a workshop in finding reliable information from Lindsay as well. So they get that extra instructional session, but we do also spend a lot of time in the course reading media articles as part of their project development. So we can see the increase there. The ability to interpret graphs and tables. They're exposed to graphs and tables nearly every week, and they're encouraged to find graphs and tables to add to their websites. Being able to recognize a sound argument and appropriate use of scientific evidence. Again, we see an increase that's significant. They are making arguments and using scientific evidence. So being able to make those arguments and learn how to do that also helps them recognize it in media. Writing about a scientific topic, the entire purpose of the website is to write about a scientific topic, so we can see that confidence increase quite a bit from pre and post. Of being able to apply scientific concepts and or solutions to situations I encounter in daily life. The course is designed to talk about science that they engage with in daily life. And you can see that. And you saw the list of topics that we're talking about. The course and the project are designed to focus on science and daily life. And so you can see quite a large increase there in their confidence. Again, explaining scientific concepts or ideas to another person. They have to present their projects to each other at the end of the semester and to members of the campus community. And so we can see the confidence increase there, give our presentation about a scientific topic, increasing confidence there as well. even though they don't have to take another science course, we do see that their confidence is increasing to be, they think they could be successful in another science course. And they also have a lot more confidence just within the course, the Core 101 course itself. They see their confidence. Obviously, by this point, they've probably already have a good idea of what their grade is. So that explains why it's like a 9. But they have, their confidence does increase from the beginning of the semester that they can get a good grade in this class. Because for some of them, they really think that Core 101 is going to be a detriment to their GPA. These 2 questions are the science anxiety questions. They're on a 1 to 5 Likert scale. So the first one is science is easy for me. 1 is strongly disagree, 5 is strongly agree. We got a nice like middle result there, 2.75, not so. Science isn't that easy for them. As the semester passes, they realize that, yes, they can engage with science. And it, again, a significant result there. This next graph is the only one we didn't get a significant result on, and it actually is the opposite of what we would expect. Science makes me feel uncomfortable and nervous. We actually see them agreeing more at the end of the semester than at the beginning of the semester. And I haven't really been able to figure out a mechanism for why that is. So I'm hoping with more data, we can get better results with that. But it also was not significant either. This is the relationship to science question. This is the image that was given to students. You can see the overlapping circles, one labeled as self, one labeled as science, and 1 is that they're 2 separate circles, whereas 7 is that they overlap quite a bit. And as you can see with the results, a lot of students on average found themselves as a 3, but by the end of the course, they were more of a 4, which is exactly what we want to see out of a general education science class. The last result I want to show is one of the open-ended questions. It was, which experience have been the most important influence on your confidence in your ability to perform or engage in science-related activities? This data takes all 4 sections into account. I looked at all of the responses to this. So 29 of the 41 students that participated in the study so far answered this question. Of the 29 that answered the question, 9 specifically mentioned the projects and website as increasing their confidence. Some of them mentioned that being able to focus on a topic of their choice just really made it interesting and exciting. Others said that the way it was scaffolded gave them the ability to learn how to make how to engage with the science. But other experiences that were mentioned in this question included in-class discussions, which are open, very open and student-led, topic reflections, and some of our Google Doc collaborations that we do in class. Open pedagogy is only one of many pedagogical decisions that I have, and trying to tease out whether or not open pedagogy is the key thing that increases their confidence is actually really difficult. So I do include all of this and am very clear that open pedagogy is just that one piece of a ton of different ways in which I try to engage with my students and try to deal with their science anxiety. So lessons learned, the survey response rate needs to be increased by giving time for completion in class. Anonymous is not always best. You needed to pair data. But overall, I'm very optimistic about these pilot results, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the results from this semester as well. I hope you have been asking me questions in the chat. I'm not sure how the question situation will work here, but you can absolutely contact me. I'm really engaged on Twitter. My personal website is listed there, as well as the Open Pedagogy website. And I look forward to answering your questions. Have a good day.